intersection of good drinks, good music, and good times. This is Hops and Spirits Bar Conversations.
I think we're in for a treat once again. Like I said last time, I always say it's going to be a fun episode because it truly is when you're having a conversation. And we've got a fun duo who will be talking about their group, the Midnight Revival. We've got Chris Bragg, who plays the electric guitar, resonator guitar, background vocals. Adam Sizemore, lead vocals, acoustic guitar. They're part, like I said, part of the duo that brought the Midnight Revival to life, and their debut self-titled album is out now. Chris, Adam, welcome in.
Thanks for having us.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, this is Bar Conversations. I always start out everyone with this. You know, I've got a little bourbon tonight, a little 15 Stars First West Rye. What's your go-to drink? What are you drinking on tonight?
Tonight I got a Portly Stout by Turtle Anarchy Brewing Company. That's what I'm sipping on.
Nice. And then a little coffee for you?
Yep. And I'm just a simple coffee man.
Wait. Now, are you a true simple coffee man, or do you have a fancy setup with, being able to blend your own beans, all that good stuff? What's your coffee bar like?
No, I'm just a simple 12-pot coffee guy. Sometimes I'll treat myself and go out and get a good one somewhere else. But one day when I make the big bucks, I'll get the big copper set up in my home.
Yeah.
My little.
He drinks it black like an animal.
Yeah.
Hey, there's something to be said about that. And then, Chris, beer, is that your go-to all these days? What's it like for you?
No, I'm typically a gin guy. Mostly, I actually don't drink too much beer, but felt like tonight was a beer night, so here we are.
I like it. Now, when y'all are on the road, are you having to find a coffee place for Adam, or is it just you can handle the hotel coffee and you're good to go?
Hotel coffee, not so much, but yeah. We usually don't have too hard a time finding something decent.
Well, I love that. And, obviously you guys are doing some cool stuff with the Midnight Revival. And, did y'all grow up around music? How did you get into music? Because I'm always curious about that. Because, I always feel like for some, it's been around their whole life. Others maybe a little later on.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I grew up playing in cover bands all through high school. And, we're doing bar gigs and weddings and stuff when I was 14, 15 years old. So I've kind of grew up with it.
Yeah, for me, my mom was a singer, not professional or anything, just amateur, and she taught me how to sing harmonies and stuff, so that invoked me to get into choirs and stuff like that. So I did a lot of choral stuff in churches, and then I was in bands when I was about 12 years old, same thing, cover bands, got into the 80s hair metal stuff, into the 90s grunge, and just like everybody else, So I've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah, you should see the pictures of this guy with his long hair metal face.
God. Yeah, no, you shouldn't. No, you should not see them.
Is that like if it all goes wrong, Chris is like, hey, by the way, I got those pictures, and you're like, all right, I'll behave.
He's got a dossier with some embarrassing long hair pictures of me in there. Yeah. He's gonna release them to the public.
Well, y'all talk about kind of growing up, around the metal bands and rock bands. So what artists, what music did you kind of gravitate toward, when you were younger and even to this point?
I mean, I grew up on, late 80s, early 90s country. My dad was always playing that stuff. Southern rock, a lot of the Eagles, Then I kind of moved over to the Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, went through all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
My mom was into Allman Brothers, The Doors, Eagles, Crosby, Stills, and Nash was a big thing for her.
Mm-hmm.
Some countries, Eddie Rabbitt, stuff like that. And then my stepdad at the time was into freeform jazz and trumpet players, Freddie Hubbard and Maynard Ferguson, and stuff that drove me out of my mind, and a lot of cool funk stuff. You know, like one of the things that we would do growing up is my mom would on Saturday mornings would put on Soul Train, and we would clean the house to the Soul Train soundtrack. So I also had a lot of Stevie Wonder and James Brown and that sort of stuff. So it was a pretty diverse field of music as far as growing up. But yeah, kind of all over the place.
I was gonna say for both of you, kind of nice eclectic mix there, and like I said at the top, you guys both are playing guitar, different things. How did y'all pick up the guitar? Was that something you just were drawn to, or wanted to impress someone? How did you end up with a guitar in your hand?
I started out doing piano lessons when I was a kid. That was my first instrument, I guess, and then wanted to move over to guitar because that's how you get the girls. So.
I wanted to play guitar at first, but we couldn't afford it. So my mom said singing is free. So I learned to develop my singing, and then eventually I was able to purchase a guitar. And then, from a neighbor, it was like $5 or $10 cheap little acoustic guitar. And then when I was in junior high, I bought a Les Paul copy off one of my mom's friends from work for like $35. Just out of principle. She wanted to give it to me for free, but my mom wanted me to pay for it. But yeah, and the rest is history.
I was gonna say, and now you're into now. Chris, were you able to pick up any ladies, anything like that when you picked up the guitar?
I did okay. Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. They used to call me the Heartbreak Kid back in the day.
Oh,
All settled down now, all married up and taking it easy. So.
Well, there you go. Well, and I will, as you talked about, you guys kind of grew up in music, whether it was playing in cover bands, things like that. When did you all realize that there was maybe a career for you in music, and like that could be something that you could do and enjoy?
For me, that was always the plan. I knew from a young age that I was going to do something in music, and find a way to make a living doing music. So after I graduated from high school, I went and took music business and then audio engineering, and kind of worked my way through that world for a few years.
For me, it was always kind of like more of a fantasy. Like it was, I always had the fantasy that someday someone's going to discover me and give me the big record contract. The old days. And then, believe it or not, it didn't really click for me to be a professional musician until much later. I was actually at a bar with some friends of mine, and some musicians came up to us to play us a song, kind of like a mariachi style, and we paid them a tip, and then I sang. I just, for fun, was just singing along, and they said, "Oh, you sing harmony?" I said, "Yeah." And they said, "Do you play the guitar?" And I said, "Yeah." And make a long story short, they had me impromptu audition, and then they offered me a gig, and I was like, "Really? You're gonna pay me money to do that?" Like, I mean, I was drinking at the time, and I wasn't even. I'm like, I'm not even sober right now, and they're like, "We don't care, it's fine." And that was like when I know it's not really the most glamorous story, but that's when it kind of occurred to me, like, wow, you could actually make a living just playing music, just casually. And then everything kind of changed from that point on, and started doing that.
See, someone did come up to you and offer you a job, though.
Yeah,
so it did happen.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, and then got into doing various recording things. That's actually how Chris and I came to be friends and work together. He came to see me play an acoustic show with some mutual friends, and then he was looking for a vocalist for his. He does movie trailers and stuff like that, so he needed someone to sing on some of the movie trailers, and he offered me some work, and then that kind of spawned out from there, and we became friends and decided if we ever have the opportunity, we'll create our own project, and we both ended up in Nashville, and here we are.
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, Chris, I know you guys ended up in Nashville, so like, was it as simple as you needed someone to kind of help out with some of the work you were doing, and that's how you and Adam met?
Yeah. So yeah, like he said, I met him at a bar. He was playing a gig, and I thought he had a great voice. So I said, "Hey, come by the studio and record some session vocals for me." And we just kind of did that for a few years until he moved away. And then we always, we kept in contact, and always joked if we ever lived in the same city again, we'd start a band. So when he moved to Nashville, we kept that promise, I guess. So.
Yep.
Well, I was gonna say because I know you were out in L.A. and you moved to Nashville. What brought you both to Nashville? Like why Nashville? How'd you end up there?
I always wanted to move to Nashville just because I love this city. I used to come here a lot for sessions, and just really didn't think it was possible until COVID happened. Everything shut down. Everyone was working from home, and I figured, hey, if I can manage a team over Zoom from home, I could do it from anywhere. So we opened up an office here in Nashville and made the move.
For me, it was a little different. I moved up to just south of Oregon, Northern California, with my my ex-wife and daughter. We wanted to kind of start anew outside of LA, and I got into the radio business, had a morning show, and was the #1 country station in the area. But since it was rural, that also means we were also the worst because we were the only one. And COVID happened, and we lost a lot of our sponsorship and advertising because a lot of our folks were mom and pops, and so the lockdown, no advertising, and so I was like, it wasn't the type of market where I could just go apply or audition for another station. So I was like, well, I'm going to get back into music. I put out a single. I hit Chris up. I hit the road for 5 months, and he said, well, come through Nashville, we'll talk. And he's like, well, let me see what I can do to help you put some of your music out. And that was kind of the original plan. And then when we got into the nuts and bolts of it, we decided to kind of rework some of the ideas that I had. We rewrote some of the things, re-recorded some things, and then got really involved and wrote a whole nother batch of other material and created a whole body of work. And that's essentially what the Midnight Revival came from. And so I after the radio thing, and I went on the road, it was kind of like a toss-up. Okay, well, down to Austin, Texas, or Nashville, Tennessee, and I just happened to know so many more people in Nashville, and Chris, had some opportunities here for me, and some other friends and stuff like that. So it just made sense. It was, it was just meant to be. So I just rolled with it, and so far so good. I'm really glad that I made the move.
Well, I was gonna say, as I said, you're part of the duo that kind of created the Midnight Revival. Why did y'all want to start a group?
Well, once we started writing together, it just kind of, everything came out so easy. It just felt like it was supposed to happen. So we just let it happen.
And then a lot of the musicians that I had employed or worked with on the demo sessions of the earlier works of the Midnight Revival were still pretty closely knit to our network of, friends and other musicians. And so it just kind of made sense. And actually, most of those people who are on those early recordings are still one way or the other part of our band, or, in and out of what we're doing as far as creating music still to this day. So it just made sense, we found a really good network of musicians that were professional, had a good resume, were solid people, were on the same page stylistically as far as what we were trying to create, had the right type of influences and the right type of attitude, and so we just kind of just been running with it, and like I said, so far so good.
Now I gotta ask, where does the name, the Midnight Revival, come from?
Well, there's kind of different takes on it. I mean, I'll have to give Chris the credit for coming up with the name in itself. But what I tell people is like, the Midnight Revival is kind of like, at the end of, going back to bar speak, at the end of the night when, right before the lights come on and you see the person you've been hanging out with or whatever. And, there's that last minute person who feels that they need to tell you, what's what, or, the person who's maybe the drunkest or the wisest at that point in time. I'm not sure how it falls, but it's that midnight sermon, at when church, the life church really happens, and so that's one take on it.
I was gonna say, I feel like there's another take on it too.
Yep. I mean, it's kind of like the Midnight Revival. It's like kind of like the last thing before. I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with that, but yeah.
Were there ever any other names that were talked about? Like, because I've talked to folks, and like,
Yeah.
one of the harder things, and people don't realize this, is like, it's not as easy as one would think to come up with a name that you're able to use, brand, different things like that these days.
Yeah, every name is taken.
Well,
We started out as the Midnight Preachers.
and that was kind of evoked from that same idea. The midnight preacher is that guy that who's decides that the bar is his congregation, and his mug is his pulpit, and you have no choice but to listen to what he has to say, whether it's wise or stupid, and that's was kind of what a midnight preacher was to us. It was kind of a little bit of a lighter, and then the Midnight Revival became sort of like the congregation itself, based off of that same idea.
Mm.
I like
Unwitting
it.
participants.
It is fun to see where a name can come from. And you touched on this a little bit about how the group grew and who you brought in to kind of fill out and so forth. But you, like you said, you were able to bring in some talented folks that you worked with. How nice was it to be able to kind of create this group of talented musicians that could bring your vision to life?
It's been amazing. I mean, everybody that we play with is just so good. Like they're all like top notch people. Like have toured the world with like the biggest bands, and we're very fortunate to have musicians that good to play with.
Right. And speaking of revival, like we're not necessarily religious as per se, but probably more on the spiritual level in terms of our music, and we wanted to kind of bring that feeling of when you are in that place, whether it's church or your favorite concert or whatnot, and when you feel that connection to the music, and that's kind of the other side of the revival thing, and having these super talented people that have just toured with everyone, played with everyone, recorded with everyone. We have platinum, engineers on our team. We got people that have opened up for everyone from Leonard Skinner to ZZ Top. Played with people that have played with Fuel and Kid Rock, and like all these people, like way more, and dare I say, impressive resumes than Chris and I as far as musicians go. So we're pretty humbled to be able to have those folks and to be a part of their world and vice versa. So
Yeah, and it's kind of the Midnight Revival. We're kind of reviving that sound, that 70s and 80s sound too. We're kind of bringing that back. We got a little bit of a vintage tone to us, and we're kind of also pushing back against like the overproduced sound, like that that real poppy kind of over polished sound. Like we're a little bit more on the raw side, and tend to we always say we don't record anything for the records that we can't do live. So
I was gonna say that leads into my next question was, you talked about that being kind of that rebellion, and there is a lot of folks that probably don't realize this, that, man, what someone sounds on the record might not be what they sound like live, and why was that so important for you to be able to recreate that studio sound live and vice versa, that live sound in the studio?
Just from my own experience of hearing a new record and then seeing that band live, there's been a lot of disappointments in the past. So I didn't want anyone to walk away from seeing us live and have that feeling, because that was just terrible for me, like to listen to a record and love it and then hear it live and it just sounded like trash. So really, really trying to not, give that to anybody.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and then you guys were able to bring your self-titled album, The Midnight Revival, to life. Dropped at the end of May. What was it like to release the album?
It was nice. It was a long lead up because we started the first single back in November of what would that be? November 2023. And we just been doing a single every couple months since then. So now to finally put the whole thing out feels real good to just be able to share it with everybody, because it's been recorded for a long time. So it's nice to finally get it out so people can hear it.
It's also a nice sense of accomplishment to have a full-length album and body of work out there, and plus, it's there's something enjoyable as an artist too, to just be able to, not to sound weird, but I mean, you have to sort of be a fan of your own music to kind of keep it going. You know what I mean? Like, so it is nice to be able to listen to the full body of work and kind of, evaluate and enjoy, and just enjoy it. But also, aside from just the singles that we put out, it's nice for people to be able to have the opportunity to discover some of the other songs that we have that are a little bit less, I don't know. I think all of our songs have a certain commercial appeal. At least we try, to capture that, to make them, memorable to people. But they all have a different, unique personality. So it's kind of like, it's nice to be able to introduce folks to our extended family, not just the singles that we're trying to just put out there, for commercial gain.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, nowadays you look at the industry and you see a lot of people that it's just singles. Maybe they combine them all into an EP and add an extra song. Why did you guys want to go the album route and kind of put out a whole collection?
Sorry. I honestly just miss those days, like as a kid when you'd go and just buy a record and you've heard what the songs that you've heard on the radio, and then you discover like, wow, what is this song? Or wow, this is a cool take on this, or like I just more selfishly just miss that personal experience and just kind of hope that younger folks, or even just music fans in general, would gravitate towards that same experience and maybe find some satisfaction in what we're putting out.
Well, I'm gonna say, I mean, it is cool because sometimes you find someone and you're like, oh, I love that person, and then you go and look and they've got one song or two songs and that's it. So it's nice to see the full body of work, and I really love what you guys have put together. It feels so good as a great song, one of my favorites. But on this record, every song was written by you both except for two that were co-written by Rob Reed. Why was it kind of just the two of you and then Rob when things lined up?
Well, those songs that were co-written with Rob were kind of reworks of material that he had written with me back in years and years and years ago, and we just really liked those guitar riffs and wanted to use them. So I called him up and said, hey man, we want to use these. What do we got to do? And he said, just put me down as a co-writer and they're all yours. So away we went.
I like it. I like it. And then for you two, though, for the most part, it was y'all just bringing what you created to the table. How cool was it to just it be y'all's creation?
It's awesome. I mean, Adam wrote some of the songs, the majority himself, and then some of the songs I wrote the majority of myself. But we just cut everything down the middle, and because we both have input on everything. And
Yeah, it's been a unique experience because as a songwriter, I've always kind of tended to just tool things myself through my own experiences and just through my own influence and whatnot. So it's been a fun experience to have an idea and then bring it to Chris and be like, hey, what can you take? What is your take from this particular idea? What can you add either lyrically or musically or melodically, whatever, and vice versa. Same thing. He'd come up with a riff like Feels So Good. And then we got the 4 on the floor from that, and then it just took off. And then we came up with a concept for what the song was going to be about, and then that's kind of been the formula really for what we've been doing thus far, and it seems like it's a pretty good way to go.
Yeah, it's really hard to find someone who you kind of connect with when you're writing, because everybody's writing style is so different. But I feel like we're pretty much on the same page a lot of the time, so it just came real easy. It's another one of those things where it's just like, it's easy. It needs to happen. So.
And it did. And
it did.
Sorry, I mean to cut you off. At this point, we kind of are familiar with our creative sensibilities too. I know that if I write a certain thing up to a certain point, I know that Chris is going to have this probably to add or this direction or whatnot. And I think that the same way for him, like he knows if he comes up with something, chord structure or melodic, that I'm going to be able to take that and kind of put a spin on it and come up with something. And it's actually kind of fun to see, like, okay, what's gonna develop from this.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember back in the day, I might be aging myself big time, but there's a guy named Tom Patton. He used to play old Popeye cartoons on when I was growing up, and he'd have this section or segment where a kid would send in, they call it a squiggle, and a random kid would send just a little design, and he would just take this design and he'd be like, all right, and then he'd draw and become a picture. And I kind of look at it like that, Chris would be like, here's this idea, this creative idea that I came up with. Now what can you do with it? And same thing, okay, well, Chris, I got this chord structure or these lyrics or whatever.
Yeah.
What can we make out of this? And it's
like sometimes I'll come to Adam and I'll have a chord structure and I'll be hearing a melody in my head, but I'll just play it for him and see what he comes out with, because a lot of the times it's a lot different than what I was thinking, and a lot of times it's a lot better than what I was thinking. So, I don't like to come to him with the melody right away a lot of the times.
I was going to say, you kind of let the creative process happen and see where it goes. And obviously, like you've talked about clearly, like it seems like you two were meant to be friends, meant to be in a group. I mean, how fun is it to go through that process and come up with those different songs, those different ideas with someone that you can bounce stuff off of, and it actually goes somewhere where you're happy to see it go?
It's good. I think, we've both been in bands before where, there's a lot of big personalities and hard to get along as a group. But we, for the most part, we're pretty much on the same page.
We don't really butt heads.
We only have a fist fight every once in a while. So
but that's more just for fun.
Yeah.
You're just two brothers, right? Every now and then you just gotta mix it up.
It all comes from love.
Yeah. No, we got a good rapport and a good working relationship, and we kind of are on the same page as far as what we are expecting from one another, creatively and otherwise. so it usually works out. Like, sometimes we'll have, I wouldn't say debates, but we don't always agree 100% immediately. It's not just whatever,
Yeah.
but we usually have a pretty good compromise one way or the other.
We respect each other's opinions enough to not be offended if one of them thinks an idea sucks.
Right, yeah. Because I do got some sucky ideas from time to time,
So do I. Yeah, it's all good.
Well,
You need
and,
a project, it sucks.
and you talk about having fun, creative. Y'all also released your version of the Eagles, I believe, "Take It to the Limit." Why did you want to put that song out to life in addition to the album?
So that song, I mean, I grew up, my dad had that cassette tape in his pickup truck and wore that thing slap out, listening to it over and over and over. So I always loved that song. And, it's one of the great Eagles songs that's never really had a proper cover done of it. I think because a lot of people are scared.
The song is
to do
kind
it,
of legendary in the music business because I don't know if you know the history, but Randy Meisner was the original bass player for the Eagles before Tim Schmidt took over. And that was rumored to be the contention or the reason why he was let go from the band, is because he didn't want to sing that song in the original key anymore because it was just too high. And the Eagles, the other members of the band, were like, no, that's what we got to do. We got to do that. And so anyway, they let him go. And then they started performing the song in a lower key, of course, after he was let go from the band. And so same thing. My mother was, who taught me how to sing harmonies, would put the 8 tracks on the cassette tapes, and that was one of the songs that I loved. And we talked about if we could do, because we were both huge Eagles fans, obviously, we loved the harmonies and all that. If we could do any song that wasn't, we wanted it to be one of the popular songs. We wanted it to be a hit of theirs, but we didn't want to go stereotypically with like Peaceful Easy Feeling or Hotel California or something like that. We wanted to do something, so we thought, let's be ballsy and record it in the original key, just as not necessarily a statement, but more of a challenge to ourselves as musicians, as singers, and see if we could pull off the vocal arrangement with all the different harmonies. But also we wanted to see how could we take a song that's so beloved by everyone and not make people hate it, but still feel like it does it some justice, but still
has our spin on it.
Yeah, exactly. Has a little bit of something different that we could contribute to it. So I think I feel pretty satisfied with what we've come up with.
Yeah.
And we've got a lot of positive feedback from it.
I gotta say, you're really dating yourself with the 8 tracks and
I know.
and the Popeye comics.
I'm old.
I wasn't gonna say it. You can look at your friend to the right and be like, "Thanks, man, thanks." Well, but like you said, you guys grew up kind of on those types of songs. That's kind of how the Midnight Revival came to be. Kind of in a sense what you were hoping to bring to life, and I think you've done a great job of that. And what's it like for you to share these songs and perform them on the stage and kind of give that live show?
It's a great feeling to be able to pull that off. For example, we just did a little run in the Northwest, a couple California shows, and we did a music festival in Washington, and at this music festival we did Take It to the Limit, and we weren't quite sure how it was going to be perceived, because honestly we hadn't really performed it live up to that point.
And it's kind of a slow song for a festival gig, but
right, but the whole crowd was singing along, and
they loved it.
And we pulled it off, and it was just great to see that connection and that it was a success,
Yeah.
Well, and
but
this
I mean,
is always I'll go for it.
Sorry. I was just saying, and the same goes for like anything else that we put out there. Like if we can execute successfully, anything that we record or write in a live setting, and people connect to it and move to it. And what one thing that's a great thing to see is like when you're performing a song for the first time and you're watching the crowd, of course, to see how they're engaged or reacting, and you see people trying to sing along with words they never heard in their entire life, like from our original music, of course. That is probably, I don't know, you can't really get a better feeling than that. People who are instantly trying to connect with you and what you've created. It's kind of like going to school with your child and everyone instantly loves them. You know what I mean? You can't help but beam from that. Same type of idea.
Absolutely, absolutely. And this is one of my favorite questions to ask, is like for y'all, you kind of have put these songs out there into the world for the first time, and in the sense of they're recorded, but is there a favorite that y'all like to perform? Because it's always interesting, especially since y'all want to make sure you take what's in the studio, and be able to recreate it. So is there a favorite that y'all like to perform?
What's your favorite?
Oh, God. We have a song called Someone's Gonna Cry. And on the recording, we employed a full choir. And it's always, that one has been pretty successful as far as audience participation. And it's really moving to get that connection with the audience. And it's just a lot of fun. Also, there's another song that wasn't a single, and I think it would have been if it wasn't 8 minutes long, 7 minutes long. It's called Third Degree. And that's one of my favorite ones. It's a little bit more of a bluesy kind of number, but it's just kind of like encapsulates, that rebel spirit, and it's just a fun, just rock song to play, and it's great to just jam up there with all the guys and gals. But I don't know. I think they all kind of have something special about them that we enjoy. Like if we didn't feel that way about any of the songs, we just wouldn't perform them. Yeah. But yeah.
Chris, I'm going to put you on the spot. Adam, answer. What is there one that you dislike, or are they all your favorite? They're all your kids, and everyone's your favorite.
Yeah, I love them all. But I think for me, my favorite ones to play live are probably This Heart and Say Goodbye. This Heart just because it's a fun number to play, and then Say Goodbye just because I love that song. It's just a good tune. It's one of my favorites off the record.
I was going to say, you guys put out a great album, and if you haven't, like I said, I kind of stumbled upon it and upon y'all, and it's been fun to listen to it. And like I said, the album's out now, so what else can folks expect from you the rest of the year? You got the album. What more is there?
We're already working on new music, so yeah, we're employing the never go away tactic. So we're just gonna be, always out there, always releasing new stuff. So yeah,
We'll probably do some shows this summer to promote the album, but we're also actively in the process of working on recording new songs moving forward. So probably by fall, we might be ready to start releasing new music, depending upon how much steam we get rolled with this current album. If not, then we'll push that new material back. But that's our kind of strategy, is just don't wait, just keep creating, and just keep going, never go away, like exactly what he said.
I like it. So you when you all were putting the first album together, were you just had more stuff that you were like, man, this is good, let this get out there and then come to it, or just constantly working and ready to release new stuff?
Yeah, we're just constantly working. There was actually we had the album done and mixed and mastered, and we wrote this other song that we were like, we felt like it just fit in with this album so well that we got it mixed and mastered and put it on before the album was released. So yeah, it's a work in progress always. We just can't help ourselves. We're just always writing. So
Nothing wrong with that at all. Nothing wrong. Like I said, some good tunes. If you haven't, give the Midnight Revival a chance. I think you will highly enjoy what they have put out. And Chris and Adam, thank y'all for sharing a drink with me and sharing y'all's story. Because like I said, it's cool to see what you guys have been able to put together, and it sounds like so much more is getting ready to come along too.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Find more from Hops and Spirits at hopspirits.com.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.